Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth and consciousness, divinity. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about love. Hello and welcome to Spiritual Nerd, and I'm your host, Ninette Terhart, and today we are geeking out with Peter Cutler. Hello, Peter, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Ninette. Wonderful.
For those of you that are just tuning in, a little bit about Peter. He is a monk, a mystic, author, artist, and a spiritual catalyst, which I love, by the way. He helps birth the awakened consciousness that lies hidden within all of us. And he says that although it lies hidden, the conditioned thoughts of the dream world, behind the conditioned thoughts of the dream world, it is always ready to be awakened. And that's what I'm talking about. So let's talk about that. Now, when we were texting prior to this, let me just get my little notes here because I want to ask you this question. We were talking about, you said, talking about the holy miracle and the moment, the moment. And there's a lot of rich depth in the moment. So I'd love to explore that, Peter.
Yes. Okay. Sure. One of the things that happens when we perceive the world through our thoughts, right? And that through our thoughts, that's how we're trained to perceive the world. And what we do is we're filtering out 99% of the world when we do this. You know, thoughts are wonderful. We create stories with them. We have a wonderful imagination. We build things with them, and it helps us sort of not be overwhelmed by all the stuff that's here. That's why we filter things out.
Okay.
But the filtering leaves us not experiencing life as it is. And one of the things we don't experience is this present moment, right? So I'd like to do a little experiment, you know, a little practice, experience, if this is okay.
Love it.
To just broaden us out a little bit from what we normally see. And it's very, very simple. We're only realizing what's here. We're only seeing what's actually here. So if you could move your hands to the side of your head so that you can just barely see them out of your peripheral vision, right? So you're looking straight ahead, but you can just barely see your hands. If you move them back a little too far, you can't see them. You move them up and you can see them, right? So can you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So while you're doing this, you're looking straight ahead, but you're also looking at through your peripheral vision, which we do when we drive. So this is something that we have, peripheral vision. So as you look through your peripheral vision, you feel a sense of more space, don't you?
Totally.
Right? You're not looking so much just at the object in front of you, but also what's here. It's like you're getting a 180-degree view, and that makes you feel more spacious.
It really does.
Yeah. So now if you notice in your room, wherever you are, that there's objects that we're focusing on, but they appear in space. There's a lot of space in our room. Wherever we are, there's space in between all the objects that are there. Right? And if we notice that and we focus instead of on the objects, on the space, which has always been here, but we haven't been paying attention to it. We're just looking at the objects. We're filtering out the space and looking at the objects as if there is no space, but there is.
Yeah.
There's this space in our room, right? Space all around us. And if we focus on the space, we feel more spacious. Because we are more spacious than we think we are.
Yeah.
So we start feeling that space inside us as well as outside us. It's the same space. And now we notice something more than we noticed before. We're not filtering out space right now. We're feeling space. We're experiencing space, and our mind can't deny it. Our mind can't say, no such thing as space. Well, of course there is.
Yeah.
Of course there is. We can see it in between objects. And when we see it and notice that, we can feel it inside us too, as space. And now we're being more present than we were before. We're noticing something more. And the holy moment is we notice a lot more. We notice a lot more. Space and many, many other things. Even our own awareness of space, which is an even deeper realization. And yet it's always here, isn't it? You wouldn't be aware of my words without awareness. And because these things are here, but they're not really defined by thoughts as much. Even space isn't really defined by thoughts. When we feel space, if we really feel into it, there's not a lot we can say about it. And there's even less that we can say about awareness or presence, because there's so much. It's too much to define with thought. And so we just be here in it and pay attention. A lot of wakening is simply paying attention to what's here, and not only to what our thoughts say are here. There's much more than that.
Yeah, I feel that, there's seemingly separated individuals that think like awakening is some sort of like, moment. just going through this with you, Peter, like you completely, that's a meditation right there.
Yeah, yeah. Meditation is just paying attention, really, in the end. At the highest level of meditation, it's just paying attention and not being distracted by thoughts. Because the thoughts always want to pull us back into the limitation, the smallness, right? The holy moment is this, the whole thing. And thoughts are this. No matter, even this experience of space, we're only opening up this much, right? There's this much. We're only opening up a little bit. There's always more. There's always more. And if we open to that always more, we end up not limiting it with our mind anymore, no matter what we come. Because as we start awakening, we get many realizations, even the realization like, wow, there is space, it's a realization. There is space. Oh, and I haven't noticed it before, but now I feel it. Really, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a realization. But if we limit it and say, okay, now I know this, we're limiting.
Right.
So instead we say, there's this and so much more. And then we keep opening to so much more. It's infinite how much more there is. So we just stay open all the time. And then what's more reveals itself to us continuously. That's the holy moment. Yeah.
What would you say is some of the highlighted experiences that you've had along this journey to now?
Well, there have been quite a few. When I was 22, I had my first real opening. And I had no idea how it happened. But I went from it's kind of a long story. It's in my book. But essentially, I woke up in the morning awake, meaning that there was no sense of a personal self anymore. And my heart was, I was love. I just was the embodiment of love. And in that process, a number of things happened. One is that I ended up healing people that came in contact with me, and they were drawn to me like a moth to a flame. People just came to me and poured their hearts out to me, complete strangers. And then I would hold them, and just in that, somehow they were healed. So it was amazing to me. I needed to have, I was very skeptical before this. So I needed this kind of concrete proof of actually these people being healed and saying that and having other people see this happen to them. So that I would believe that this wasn't just my imagination, it was something more. I needed both things. I needed the feeling inside, and I needed the outside kind of verification. So I think that's why the healing happened, and it still does. But it was the first time it ever did. And I didn't understand it at all. I had no idea what it was. I mean, I couldn't understand, my mind couldn't understand it. So it said, oh, I must be the second coming of Christ. That must be it, right? I didn't know Christ healed people. I was healing people. There was love. I didn't know what else to say because I had no reference point for it, really. And, but I also wasn't attached to that either. It was just like, my mind is just, I'm throwing this out because we're kind of at a complete loss here, you know, but it was wonderful. And it lasted for about 10 days. And then it sort of started fading. I felt it was fading. And I was back to my old self again, you know, which was pretty egotistical, angry, very and wow, I didn't like that at all. I wanted to be back where I was there. So that started my really serious spiritual search. Oh, sorry. I had the phone in here to get this. So that started my my spiritual search in earnest. You know, I went for 40 years, I was looking, how do I get back to this without having a clue what to do? But I tried different things, eventually found Zen, and that was a help. So in retreats and things, I would have an opening, a little bit more of that, you know, different things would happen where I would open more to it. And eventually it just over time became the way I am, you know. I just came into this openness and stayed as this openness finally.
Would you say, Peter, that you'd have maybe moments of certain shifts that you were very well aware of, that this was another kind of new platform that you're going to be able to live within?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, that first one was clearly a big thing, but after that, many different things happened. You know, there was, because it was like a cleaning out, right? So I had this first experience, but then I went back into the ego, the self, and just stayed there. You know, all I had was the memory of this experience, but I was really back into this and not liking it at all. You know, before I didn't know what life could be like free of this. And then I knew for 10 days, and then being back in it, I go, no, this is not good. I want the other thing, right? So I was looking for that, trying to get back to that, which was one of the mistakes we make, because you can't go back, you know, you don't go back. That's just a memory. That's just something in the past. That doesn't really exist. You find what's now. And I was missing that. I was missing the understanding of that. That's not, you don't reclaim this experience. You have the experience of now in this moment, because that freedom is always here now. It always had been here now. Long before I ever realized that it was always here now. It can't be anyplace else. You know, that's why I just simply open to now, you know? And so, yeah, many experiences came where they were very obvious, you know, very obvious into, some of them came from trauma. And that was just a way of, even suffering is a way of sort of purging the illusion, just sort of cleaning out the illusion of attachment. And because we're so attached to this illusion, sometimes it takes a pry bar. It takes something to really, to take it away. And that we experience as trauma, you know, or great suffering. That like, no, my life is falling apart. No, I don't want this to leave. But that's actually for our benefit. Right. Because from those experiences, we get freedom. If we're open to it, often we say, we just fight so hard that as soon as we want something else, fill something else quickly in here and not just be open to what is.
That's the thing. Fill it with something else. Yes.
Yeah. Fill it with something else, like being a spiritual teacher or being an awakened being or something. Fill it with that. Now there's my new identity, instead of not having an identity.
Right.
It's okay not to have an identity, because the truth is this perfect moment, this holy moment, this presence has no identity, and we are this. It doesn't need an identity. If it had an identity, it wouldn't be what it is. It has no identity. There's nothing we can say about it. An identity means there's me and an other. I'm not the totality. There's me and something else.
Right.
When there is me and something else, there is no identity. There's just the
Is,
totality.
yeah. Ram Dass says he went into nobody training. I love Ram Dass because he's so
Yes,
awesome.
yes, I know.
But, you know, I
Yeah,
think about that. I'm like, I'm really starting to cherish the opportunities, you know, even though it feels like poo sometimes, you feel all this emotional crap. I'm really starting to grasp that this is an opportunity
yeah, yeah,
instead of, oh my God, like you said, my life is falling apart.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is always an opportunity. Everything in life is given to us for our benefit. It doesn't seem like it, you know. There's a lot of things we say like, wait, what do you mean? I got 4 flat tires and it's pouring rain. How is this possibly for my benefit? But it all is.
You know,
It all is entirely for our benefit.
yeah.
You know, we just don't see it that way. And after a while we do. And then things that come where we would have thought were a problem, we know behind it, it's like, oh, I don't understand why, but I know that it's for my benefit because every other time it has been. So this time is probably the same, even though I can't possibly imagine, and it seems like the opposite of that. Let me open to this and try and find out why. Instead of trying to fix things, let me see why. Why is this happening? And why am I suffering? Why am I so upset about it? Why? And really questioning that, because our mind has all the answers. It says like, well, of course, because of this, because that person's a jerk and they said this to me, and that's why my life is a mess. But why? Don't listen to the thoughts. Really, really ask deeply why. And in that, we find out the benefit and the healing and the end of suffering. All of this comes from paying attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, one of your, sorry, were you going to say something else, Peter? I didn't want to cut you off. One of your most recent posts, dude, I loved it. It was like hitting to the core of, you were talking about like, you know, starvation and rape and all this like stuff that people just want to like, I'd love for you to chat a little bit about that. I mean, I say a little bit, but you know, there's a whole book there, but I'd love to, you know, hear some of your thoughts while we're chatting.
Well, you mean the suffering of the world?
Yeah, and just that whole.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because when you open to something beyond this personal self, you feel the suffering of the world. You feel the suffering of all beings. This was another awakening I had, which was not pleasant at all, was on my very first retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh. My heart opened to the suffering of the world. And I felt completely unprepared. But later I realized it wouldn't have happened if I weren't prepared. It just felt unprepared. So the whole retreat, I was just crying. I was just sobbing. I couldn't, you know, I would go to an event or something and I'd just break down crying because I felt the suffering of the world. I couldn't really pay attention to anything. I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for the whole like 5 days of the retreat. You know, I just maybe an hour during the whole time because I just cried all night long. And it was really painful. And I didn't understand what had happened. I thought, I went there for some peace, you know, and happiness, and that, what the hell? And so people said, oh yeah, you know, your stuff comes up and this and that. Everybody had these different explanations. And finally, I talked to a friend of mine who later became a Dharma teacher. And she said, isn't it wonderful? And then I knew. I didn't know before she said, that's all she said, isn't it wonderful? And I knew in that moment that she said that my heart had broken open and it had been closed to the suffering of the world. You know, I could watch the news and hear like, you know, 10,000 children dying of starvation in Africa and go, and now the weather, and now this, and it just, you know, compartmentalize all this stuff. And then all of that just came to me. All of that opened up to me, the awareness of everything that I'd seen before and sort of stored away or rejected or not paid attention to, and everything that was happening in this moment all over the world. So all the suffering of everyone I felt as my own suffering. And it was very hard. I couldn't contain it. It's impossible. I was trying to. That's why I was suffering and crying. If I just let go to it, I would have been okay. And when my friend said, isn't it wonderful? I let go to it.
And then what happened? You let go. And so what does that,
I was able to, this is reality. There is no,
right?
suffering, there is no such thing as suffering. Suffering doesn't
Right.
exist. It's a mental thing. And yet almost all the whole human world is suffering.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist and the whole human world is suffering. Both of those things are totally true. If we deny one, how can we help anybody? People come to us with a lot of suffering. If we just say suffering doesn't exist, that doesn't help them at all. To
No.
them, it completely exists.
Yes.
And we can feel their suffering. We feel how it exists in them. So it's real to them, and it's also not real because it's manufactured with the mind. It's perfect. And yet people are not feeling that perfection. They're feeling something very, very different through their mind. And
Yeah.
so to our heart needs to be open to this. This is what compassion and understanding is. We have to be open to it. Now, I do feel this all the time, but I hold it in this space that's far bigger than that. So it doesn't overwhelm me at all. You know,
Okay.
I'm aware of it, but it doesn't overwhelm me because the space, this infinite space, holds everything. Before this planet ever existed, before the Big Bang, this space was here holding all of this. Everything that's occurred since before the Big Bang has all appeared in this space of me, of you, of reality. And so to have that perspective, you can hold everything. The suffering of the world is big, but it's not more than this space. It's much smaller than that. So you can
Huh.
hold this, hold all of that in there. And it's wonderful because it's true. If we reject something and say, that's too much for me, well, now we've repressed and we've rejected life. We're not open. As soon as we say, no, that's too much for me, we're not open to life. We've drawn a line and said, I'm open to life so far and no further. Right? So to embrace the suffering of the world that's real means we're open to life. Our practice really is to work with the things that we don't want to accept. We don't want to accept the inevitability of our own death, right? We don't really want to think about that very much, but that's reality, right? We're drawing the line and saying only this, but no more.
Right.
I don't want to know more. When we open to all of it, we open to all of it, and it's not a problem for us anymore. As soon as we open to it, it's no longer a problem. It's no longer suffering. We just embrace it. This is just life. This is just what happens. Is there something wrong with it? No.
No.
It's what is. Is there something wrong that so many people are suffering? No. It's just what is in this moment. We deal with what is in this moment. And there is a sweetness to it. There's sort of a poignant sweetness to holding all that suffering and feeling all that suffering as our suffering. The whole world's suffering is our suffering. To feel that, there's a poignance, a sweetness, a compassion, a connection to feeling that. Now, of course, that's not all there is. There's
No.
a number of awake beings, there's joy, there's births, there's deaths, there's all of it. We're holding all of it. We don't have to only focus on one thing, but now we're talking about that. So my heart is feeling the suffering part of it. My attention is drawn to the suffering rather than just the totality. In the totality, suffering is just part of the totality, right? Our attention can move anywhere. It's very, very flexible. And when we have this very broad thing, it also moves in that area as well. You know how attention moves, right? You go to a hospital because your knee is hurting you, and someone comes along and steps on your foot. Suddenly you're not thinking about your knee at all. You're thinking about
Yeah.
your foot. Your attention has gone to your foot. So our attention is very flexible, and a lot of the way we engage with the world is through our attention. Most of our attention is put onto our thoughts. I see that person, that's what I think about them. I make an instant judgment. Okay, that's who that is. And then I think that's who it is, right? Our attention has become very limited to there. If our attention is open to the whole thing, we realize, okay, that's my judgment. That's who I think they are, but I have no idea who they are really. That's just a judgment. That's just a thought. That's one of the things happening in this moment.
Yeah.
The other thing is their actual presence and their energy, and the environment that they're in. and the environment that I'm in, and the energy in me. All these things, we just feel more, we just include more, and then we're present, right? We can't really be present when we're limiting everything through thoughts. We're just present to our thought, and we're believing our thought is the world, is the totality, is the whole thing. We believe it, and it limits us, just as we did the space exercise.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, as soon as we do that, it's, oh, there is more. Oh, there's more. And that makes us feel spacious because it's true there's more. You know, so we're starting to see, oh, there is more. And more feels good. The more we open, even the suffering of the world, if we open to it, feels good. Right? If we reject that and go, yeah, I just want the good stuff. I don't want to have, you know, the unpleasant stuff. Just give me the good stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. We can't do that because that's not real. Right? And good stuff and bad stuff, that's not actually real either. Those are just thoughts. There isn't a real good or bad. There's just what is. There's just what is in the moment. And as long as we think we understand it and we can say something about it, we're not really open to it. We open to not knowing.
I'm just finding that taking the sizzle out of the poignancy of like, this is that and that's that, knowing that there's more, I'm able to, I mean, some people have said, well, that doesn't sound very compassionate, but I feel I've been able to do so much more in holding space of is and the truth than being, you know, honed in on one thing and kind of, nah, because that doesn't help anybody.
No, because then we're just honing in through our mind. We're just filtering things down again. It's hard for people to embrace not knowing, right? Because before we really get to that point, there's always this thing where, like, I mean, many times we have an experience of like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, right? But we quickly try and fill that gap in. We quickly say, I need to know quickly, so we don't spend any time appreciating what that not knowing actually is and what it feels like. When we open to this not knowing, it actually feels wonderful and freeing. We don't have any problems in not knowing. It's just like, it's like space. It's like, oh, this is awesome. This is wonderful. How did I not know that not knowing was better than knowing?
So cool.
Knowing is a limitation. Not knowing is being open, because our mind always wants to know. And as long as we don't fill it with any knowing, we're always open to learning. We're always open to experiencing everything. So that's not knowing, is just being open to life. It's taking those limitations away. That's all it is. It's a wonderful thing to not know. And the truth is, we never do know.
You're right, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And we don't need to. This not knowing is truth. This not knowing brings everything that we need into this moment. So if we need to solve some issue or problem that comes up, the not knowing, it just arises. The answer just arises in this not knowing. You know, and we don't attach to that either. If we understand it, we don't attach to this, oh, now I got it. No, you don't get it. You never get it. It's just continuous not knowing. And the answer comes up in the moment, wonderful, and then let it go so a new one can come.
Right.
Because if you attach to that one, now you're stuck in the past. And then all these answers that are continuously coming, you're going to miss all of them. You have to just stay open and trust that they come. And we trust by experience. We trust by trying. Buddhism is a wonderful thing because there's no truth in it. There's no like, this is it, and you believe that. It's like, no, try it and see what happens. Try it and experience what happens, and then you be the judge. See what happens.
Awesome.
The Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. You know, here's the teachings, but they're suggestions. Try it. They're practices. Try this and see how you feel. Try the experience of space and see how you feel. If you like it, good, do it again. You know, it's nice. If it's a good thing, do it. But you don't have to take words for it. You know, religion is like, believe this. Here's this thing. Practice believing this. You know, let me say it over and over again until you believe it. What? Now you're limited.
Right.
You want to know what God is, having other people tell you what God is, or your own beliefs in what God is, they're not going to help you experience what God is. God is beyond all that. How do you experience something beyond all that? You let go of all that. You let go of all your thoughts about all your beliefs, and you just be.
Yeah.
You just let God show you what God is. That's how you know. And can you say what it is? No,
Right.
it's not
No.
that.
No. It's constant this. Just that's what it
Yeah.
feels like. Just constantly don't clutch on anything. Just
Yeah. No, don't. Just let it be. Just let things be as they are, because then they're as they are.
Yeah.
And as they are is wonderful. It's built into us to go towards pleasure, to go towards like happiness and peace. It's built in, and love. It's built into us to do this. This is our kind of inner guidance system. And it works for awakening and for truth too, because the more we open, the better we feel. When we open to space, oh, I feel better than I did before. You know, I thought I was just this, and there were just me and different objects, and that was the world. Now I'm realizing, yeah, but there's space too. And even inside me, there's space. Oh, okay, that feels nicer. That feels more open. That feels better. Yeah, that's part of the inner guidance system that says you're on the right track, right? If we feel unhappy about it and miserable, well, that's saying you're not on the right track, you know? Try and change course a little bit, so your inner GPS system will bring you to, oh, I'm happier. Good. Now you're on the right track. Keep going in that direction. Very simple, you know? We go by our feeling. Our
right.
body knows all this that our mind doesn't know. Our mind has beliefs and confusion and ideas about things, but our body actually has a knowing. It knows this inner GPS system. You know, it
Right.
says, oh, that feels good. I don't know why. I don't need to, but I'm going to keep going in that direction because that feels good. To be open feels good. To be closed and limited, it doesn't feel good. It feels confining, you know, and often it feels like suffering, right?
Now,
Things aren't,
does Peter Cutler ever have a bad day?
not anymore, because I don't really feel a Peter Cutler, you know? If I
Uh-huh.
did feel a Peter Cutler, every day would be a bad day.
uh, I love it. Peter,
Yeah.
I want to ask you something, because we're going to
Okay.
finish up soon, and I could talk for hours, of course, with you because you're awesome. Um, what sort of advice, or like a short little blurb of something you could share with someone if you feel like they're kind of, trying to figure stuff out? Like, what would you say to them so they could take away something?
Be open to what is, and don't think you know what is. Allow yourself to understand that there's more, that whatever you think, there's much more than that. And put your attention on the more, right? Here's what I think, here's what I believe. That's a limitation, right? There's more than that. So what is that more? And don't go for any answer. Just keep saying, what's more? How can I understand more? That brings your attention into presence and to what is. The natural curiosity of the mind, which comes from the more empty the mind is of all our knowing and beliefs, the more we're open to what is. So if we understand that there's always more, just doing that space experience says, oh, there's more. There's more than what I thought. There's more than even what I experienced. Oh, okay. And it's really here. It's not a mystical thing somewhere up in the sky or after I die or something. No, it's right here.
Right.
It's right in this very moment. It's all right here in this very moment. There's so much here in this very moment.
It truly is, isn't there?
Yeah. So if we do that, then, our confusion is because we want to figure it out. And we believe that we have to. We believe I need to understand all of this. Otherwise, my life will be a mess and I'll be out of control. Well, we're never really in control. We don't need to be in control. Life is already working amazingly You know, look at the evolution of creatures, a spider, like an ant. There's like thousands of different species and types of ants and spiders, all doing different things in the best possible way they can. How did this happen? Because this is the way life is. Did we do it? No.
Heck no.
We didn't need to do it, you
No.
know? I mean, do we control our body? Are we controlling our immune system now? Are we controlling our heart? We can control our breathing to a certain degree, but we don't need to. You know, when we fall asleep, we're not doing it, and the breathing still goes on. Life is doing a wonderful job.
Yeah.
It doesn't need our control of it, really. And the more we let go, we see that and we can relax. It's so much less stressful than trying to control everything when we can't. If we could control everything, it would be a mess.
Oh my good Lord. Yeah.
We don't really want to. You
No.
know? We can just let this evolve as it evolves. It sounds strange because it's so different than how we were brought up. You know, learn this, accomplish, work really hard. Working hard is not a bad thing. It's fine to do that. You and I have done that, you know, and accomplished many things from that. It's our attachment and our thinking that we're doing all of it, because in fact, we never did. In fact, there were so many things that went into any of our successes that we had no idea about and never could, beyond anything we can know. It couldn't have happened without all these things. Our part in it was actually quite small. You know, we focused our direction. We stayed doing one thing for a period of time. That's what we did. But there were so many things that went into to all of it, to everything in life, so much more. And once we open to that, we become accepting of it, comfortable with it, and happy about it. Loving
excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, life is giving us so much all the time. We start realizing that. Just for instance, this present moment, right? To really realize what this present moment is never going to be exactly as it is ever again. It's a precious thing, like these flowers here. You know, they live for a short time. When you cut them, you know, you have them for a few days or a week, and then they're not fresh anymore. So that's why we like them. It's like, oh, they're showing us that life is impermanent, that everything is changing. And while they're here, just savor it. Just open to it fully, because it is very precious. Every person that's in our life, in this moment, they're not actually going to be the same in the next second. Everything is changing. So in this moment, we have it. In this moment, we have a living body to experience what it's like to be alive. But at a certain point, it won't be anymore. So really, this gives us gratitude. When we realize the nature of impermanence, we have enormous gratitude for what is in this moment. And that makes life wonderful.
And a lot of humility.
Humility, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Humility. And also just enormous love for what is in this moment, you know, and gratitude for it.
Yeah.
You know, because if we don't do that, we're not really fully alive. You know, we'll have so many regrets, you know, when we're dying, we'll have so many regrets. Oh, I didn't do this. But if we fully embrace all of life, we end up like, well, I did fully embrace all of life. It's good. I got my fill and more. So it's okay. This is fine. This is natural too. This is the end of this, and this is all beautiful too. Even the ending, if we open to it, is beautiful. It's natural. It's true.
Right.
This is all part of what happens. And it's a reminder. I mean, we get this when we go to a funeral. You know, a lot of times we get this, an appreciation that life is pretty short, and that maybe I should really put my arms around these people and my family and stuff, because I may not see them again. You know, it's like, this is good. This is a good reminder. And then we forget about it and we go along our business. And 3 days later, we're totally back in our own minds, and we're not, you know, feeling this great love that we had before, in this understanding of life.
Yeah.
But we don't have to forget. We can be open to life as it is. We don't have to reject it. We don't have to push away the things that our mind says, oh, that's unpleasant. I don't want to, deal with that. That's unpleasant.
Yeah.
Death is unpleasant. Give me, birth. I just want the birth. Throw away the death part. I don't want that.
Peter, can people get a hold of you on your website? Is that the best, Enlightenment? I'm going to put that on the interview. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a good way. They can contact me through there. Yeah.
Okay. And you offer sessions and retreats.
Yeah. We haven't done a retreat in a while, but we may do another one. Yeah. We have, there's satsangs that we do a couple of times a week. Yeah. And
so you do those on Zoom?
Yeah, we do them on Zoom just like this. Yeah.
What times do you do them? I'm going to put that.
We do that on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and Saturday at noon Pacific time.
Dude, I'm in like a dirty shirt. What? Yeah, I'm going to post that up. That's so satsang. Okay.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Yeah, we do experiences, and just kind of being with, it's very helpful to be with somebody that's open like this, because it gives us permission to be open ourselves, because it's our nature to be. It gives us permission to open to our nature. When we see someone else who's doing it, somehow we go, because most of the time life is saying like, don't do that, focus on this, this is who you are, this is who I am, believe this, but when there's freedom there, we become free. It allows us to be free, to be what we are, to be in this moment. It's very simple, it's just because it's our nature to do this. And so our nature starts coming forward, and we become natural.
It's really beautiful.
We have this artificial idea of who we are.
Yeah.
Our name and our form and our past and our history. And we cling to this for dear life because we think it is our life. We don't realize that we're life itself, that we're the totality of it. And it's not a mental thing. We can't really, understanding it intellectually doesn't help. But when we let go of all the things that aren't true, this is what's here. This is what remains. So we don't add anything. It's not like getting new knowledge is going to help us. It doesn't. Knowledge is wonderful, but it doesn't help us to experience reality. It's letting that go and letting reality be the knowledge itself.
Dude, we gotta do another interview because we could be talking about so much stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate your time. And I'm going to put this up on the interview so people know to, chime in and also to get a hold of you. And thank you again. And I know when I go to Gina Lake's, you're always holding this.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah, I do hers every Saturday.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm there every Saturday.
I love it.
Yeah.
She rocks, and, J-Dog's pretty cool, too. Yeah. No, they're good friends of mine. They live in Sedona too. Oh, they do? Okay. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Peter, so much. And I will let you know when this is up and running. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll put it on my website or a link to it or whatever. Oh, I would love that. That'd be great. Yeah. You're so good. Oh my God. Well, dude, you're rock and roll. I love it. So we will talk soon. And Peter, thank you again so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Well, I want to thank Peter Cutler so much for joining me today on Spiritual Nerd. And again, I look forward to the next time when I'll be geeking out with you. Let's talk about life, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the truth and consciousness, divinity. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about love.